My name is Jeremy Engelman, and I'm here to show you my method and technique for doing a 3-day figure painting in 3 + 1 hours. I call it 3 + 1 hours because you'll do the bulk of the work in front of the live model in 3 hours, and then you can spend another hour or two afterwards fixing things or making adjustments and stuff like that. Um, I've done quite a number of these. I've learned a lot from doing a load of different methods, and I think I finally have a method that allows me to achieve what I've been wanting to achieve. I found some tools that I really like, and tools that allow me to allow the immediacy of working in this way. And so I'm going to recommend those tools to you, and I'm going to show you how I use them. Your mileage may vary. You might find different tools that you like better, or whatever. But the techniques, tool to tool, will be the same. And so I'll show you a little bit about my setup, because first you're going to need your equipment. You're going to need a laptop, a lap desk, a tablet, and an extension cord. So I have this one here. You can just buy a lap desk. I made this one because I couldn't really find one that was sort of big enough to support everything, but that's all it is. Just a piece of wood, pop your laptop on there, and your tablet, and you are good to go. I say that because at the figure painting sessions, typically the chairs, strangely, look like this, and you're always kind of, you put your board here for drawing, but you just want to set your lap desk across there with your computer and your tablet, and being careful not to pop a wheelie off of that thing, which I've done. And then here's our lovely DreamWorks figure painting setup with our classy backgrounds. So it's going to look something like that when you get there. Now, the software that I am recommending, that I'm using for my current third series of these, my iterations, I've done a load of these where I used video game models, like really low poly dolls, and posed them and did some quick lighting on them in 3D Studio Max. Then I did a higher poly doll and put that into Maya, and didn't really do a lot of sculpting, just pulling vertices with Artisan back in the day. And then I incorporated ZBrush into that workflow a little bit. I also did a bunch of Z-sphere stuff, which was these ones were done with Z-spheres in front of the model. And then now I have a third kind of iteration of my pipeline in which I use ZBrush for the model. Transpose is invaluable in this kind of a workflow. I use a new piece of software that I just heard about recently called 3D Coat, which I really like the way that it texture paints, and I'll describe that to you in the texture painting section of this. I like it a little bit better than ZBrush. However, you don't have to use this. ZBrush is a perfectly capable texture painter, especially because you're going to be doing sort of low res, really fairly rough color texture maps, and ZBrush is perfectly capable of doing that if you're comfortable with it. I really like 3D Coat for a number of reasons that I'll outline in that section. And for lighting, I've been using Modo. And Modo's incredible because of its live preview, it allows me to do lighting very, very quickly, some shader work and reflectivity very quickly, because that preview window updates instantaneously, and it allows for the immediacy of doing this, even with relatively high poly count sculptures that you would be doing. Now, you're going to keep it under like 200,000 polygons. You're not going to be doing like a 9 million polygon sculpt, because we're keeping it loose and rough, and that's the idea, is to try to kind of loosen up. We paint stuff that's super tight and incredibly detailed all day long, and especially working in feature animation or any visual effects industry, that's what you do. You're painting tight detail all day, and every nut and bolt on every single piece of equipment that comes your way. And it's kind of nice to go the other way. It's kind of nice to be a little bit freer with the tools. So beyond that, you will also need a little doll or a little stick figure. You probably have one if you're working in ZBrush. and you want it to be nice and clean, fairly low resolution and clean UVs. It's kind of nice to you can use, and I did for a long time, use ZBrush's sort of auto UV thing, which gives you all these crazy pieces that have no sort of contiguous nature. And that works fine, but it's a little bit easier to manage if you have clean UVs on that stick figure, and I'll show you that in the model session. Now, you also can bone up on a little bit of lighting reference, which I would recommend these books to you, 15 or 50 lighting setups for portrait photographers. What's cool about these is that they show you the result and they show you the setup, what kind of light, and the positions of those lights. They even go through, there's even a little more complex setups with bounce cards and reflectors and stuff like that. And what's good about this is, since our lighting tools in 3D are the metaphor is the same as photography. We have spotlights and reflectors and cameras, and it's the metaphor is derived from photography, and so it's helpful to look at books about photographic lighting. So any one of these is really good. You don't have to have both of them, but or all three of them rather, but they go into some of the toolkits that traditional photographers would use, and it's kind of nice to have this kind of grounding in what it is that you're seeing, especially because with Moto, there's this thing that I'll talk about in the lighting section called Studio Lighting and Illumination Toolkit, which I like a lot. It's just kind of fun to use. So, and then the last one is this sculpting with light techniques for portrait photographers. This is also really good, and again, does a lot of the same stuff where it shows you the results and it shows you the setups. So any one of those is quite good. And when you're what I'm going to do for the purposes of this class is I'm actually going to do this not in front of a live model, but from a photograph, which is fine. I would encourage you eventually to go in front of a live model and do this. There's nothing can beat it, sort of being around everybody else, seeing their interpretations of what it is that you're also looking at. You can learn a ton from other really talented people around you. During the breaks, the model always takes some breaks. During the breaks, you can go around and look at other people's setups and and what it is that they're doing, and they'll come around and look at yours, and everybody can give kind of constructive criticism, and it really is a nice way to work around other people. Get you out of the house and out into the world, which we all spend too much time in front of our computers. But for the purposes of this class, or this demo, I'm going to do from a photograph. And you can do that too. You might want to do a couple of practice rounds anyway before you actually go out and do it, and see if you can get it, see how much you can get done. 3-hour time limit, and then sort of tweakage, after the fact. So where you can go for pose reference, I know you can find pictures of naked people on the internet, but let's keep it more academic than that. This was really great, Pose Space. What's really great about them, you buy these, a couple of bucks a piece. They're not expensive at all, but you get really high resolution photographs of academic figure poses, and they provide a full turn of it, which is really amazing. And it's good in a lot of ways, because one of the great things about being in front of a live model is that if you're a little bit confused about how some form is reading, or how that contour line becomes a form line and then transitions in that way, how a muscle wraps and inserts into its insertion point, you can just get up and look at the form in 3D. Sometimes when you're looking at a photograph of it, it's like, where is that going? How does that form read? But when you can get up and look at the actual model, and don't be shy, get up and look, and then you can really begin to understand the forms in a truer way. Well, this is the next best thing, because because even though you may choose this pose to work with, and that's where you're going to be virtually sitting, if you're having a little bit of trouble understanding this form right here, the rib cage, then you can actually just go through the turn, and it really does help. It's as if you're rotating around the model. It really does help give a very 3D feel to the thing, and you can understand the form um, and read it in a much better way than just with um, a single flat photograph. The other place that you can get it is from Lockstock's DeviantArt page. She's a well-known model on DeviantArt. As you can see, the face that launched 1,000 deviations. A lot of people use on DeviantArt use her for. She provides these as I think she Creative Commons them out so that you can use them as drawing reference and stuff like that. So you'll see her face all over the place. And the one that I am using is one of hers. I really like this pose a lot. Now, having said that, it's very flat lighting, so I'm going to deviate from that just a little bit and add a little bit of oomph to it. And because you're interpreting, there's no reason that you can't feel free to do that. Now, you may not want to go insane and creating something that you don't see. You always want to keep everything true to what you are looking at on the model, even in terms of the lighting and where some shadows are hitting. But you can always feel free to exaggerate certain things and build out certain things more and give it a little bit of your own style and interpretation. And that is just about it. Although the last thing to mention is where to go. If you aren't so lucky as to work at a place that offers them, DreamWorks Animation offers these things to us once a week, which is fantastic. And excuse me, we're very lucky to have that. If you aren't so lucky to have that at your work or your school, if you're in school, you probably have life drawing as well. You can go and participate and take your computer and your tablet. But if you don't have either of those, a lot of times, even though you aren't currently enrolled at a school, you can still go to a school's sessions. They may ask for a little donation or something like that. But if you just enter figure drawing or life drawing and your town and state or country in Google, you will find these life drawing meetups, co-ops, open sessions. You'll find a load of them, and you just go, show up, and you'll probably have to pay a little bit of something. You can also get together and create your own little co-op with some friends and hire out a model. So that is just about it. The bottom line of this, though, is that you are doing it to learn. Don't be worried if it isn't perfect. It's simply an exercise, and you should have fun with it. It's a little bit stressful when you're really trying to get all that stuff in under the gun at 3 hours. Sometimes I get really kind of stressed out and nervous, but at the end, I feel like a good stress, like as if you had just, hiked a mountain or something like that. It feels really good to do this stuff, and it is really fun. So that's really it. Have fun.